Hello, my name is Jake. I would like to share with you a story about something terrifying that happened to me late one night. I work a 12-hour shift at my warehouse job in Detroit. I get to work at 1 in the afternoon and I leave at 1 in the morning. I don't mind the work, but sometimes things just seem to happen at night that makes my evenings a crapshoot. But enough about that, let me get to the story. I looked at my watch and saw that it was time for me to punch out for the evening. I was extraordinarily hungry and I am always annoyed because I have limited options for dinner. It's either 24-hour convenience store hot dogs or fast food. Multiple times a week I eat at Taco Bell because the one by my job is open until 2 a.m. So I decided to eat there again. I whip into the drive-thru and order. I like to get a chicken quesadilla, Doritos Locos Taco, and a zero-sugar Baja Blast. That meal usually ties me over until breakfast. Instead of commuting back to my house, which is 20 minutes away, I usually eat in the parking lot after I order. That way, the food is not cold by the time I get home. It's also nice to have a hot meal after working a 12-hour shift. I know that I'm supposed to eat halfway through my shift, but I was up late playing Call of Duty with some guys from work and decided to nap in the break room. I receive my order and make a beeline right to my parking spot. I take the taco out of the bag first, because if you don't eat it in a timely manner, it gets soggy on the bottom. I get 2 bites into it, and hear a banging sound on my window, which scares me and causes me to drop my taco. It's a homeless guy named John. I'm friendly with him and so I roll down my window to talk. He likes to talk about religion, mostly, but I'm not religious myself, but I provide him with somebody to talk to. I reach into my wallet and give him a $10 bill and tell him to go get something to eat before they close so he wouldn't have to dig through the dumpster tonight. He tells the Lord to bless me and goes on his way. He gets about 15 paces from my car and out of nowhere, a hooded man cracks an aluminum baseball bat across John's back. While he is on the ground in agony, the man takes the $10 bill out of John's hand. I shout at him through my open window as he turns and looks at me. He starts approaching my vehicle with the bat over his shoulder. I quickly roll up my window and attempt to start my car. And wouldn't you know it, it won't start. He takes the bat and swings it like Babe Ruth and knocks out my driver's side headlight and approaches my window. All while this is happening, I am desperately trying to start my car. He then taps the bat tauntingly on the glass and maliciously grinning as he does it. We lock eyes and through the window, he tells me to give him everything in my wallet. I roll down the window, but only a crack and I do as he says and give him the $37 I had. He takes it while looking at me and laughs as he runs away. After he had disappeared from my line of sight, I called the police. I told them to send an ambulance for John as well as an officer. They arrive in a span of 15 minutes. I was told since this area is riddled with crimes, there's really nothing he can do about it. I still give him my statement with the man's description anyway, hoping it helps down the line. The ambulance takes John to the hospital and they informed me that besides a concussion from hitting the asphalt, he didn't sustain any broken bones or internal bleeding from the hit. I hope he can milk his hospital stay for as long as he can, because at least he has a bed to sleep on and 3 meals a day. I, on the other hand, will be staying away from that area for the foreseeable future, and I will think twice before I use my lunch break to take a nap again. To whoever robbed us and assaulted John, I hope that $47 was worth it, you coward.
I'm Maggie. I was staying late after school to study for my SATs. I'm a senior who would prefer to get a high score so I can leave my hometown and move on to bigger and better things. My home life is a disaster with a drug-addicted father and my mother being too busy with her hobby of the week. My twin sister and I still have each other, and I hope to take her with me far away from Greeley County. I was with my tutor, Patrick. He was a freshman at the local community college and he had a side hustle for tutoring for $15 a session. This was my last session with him and he helped me tremendously. The only problem that I had with him was, he worked late at Dairy Queen and didn't get off until 9 p.m. So I would study with him from 10 p.m. to midnight. Thankfully, it was on the weekends and not on school nights. We were just about to wrap up our final session when he informs me that the reason that he tutored me was because he had a bit of a crush on me. We went to the same high school when he graduated last year. I told him that I was flattered, but that I needed to focus on my studies so that I could leave this town for a better life. He seemed to be very understanding and dropped it immediately. However, I didn't know he was about to do a 180. He obliged and told me he would drive me home so that I didn't have to walk home. I thanked him, but I declined the offer. I told him that I actually enjoyed the walk home because they gave me time to clear my head. He instantly gave me a huge kiss on the lips. I was taken aback and shoved him away. He laughed as he tried to put his hands on my hips while leaning in for another kiss. I slapped him and took off running. He angrily hopped into his car and started chasing me through the parking lot of the school. I was so scared that I dropped everything and just ran like my life depended on it. Luckily, there was a construction site for a new addition to be added onto the school. So I cut through that because his car was unable to get through the fencing. My house was only half a mile away from school, but it felt like I was running for an eternity. I felt that I finally lost him when I looked back and he wasn't there. As soon as I got to my front door, he blindside tackled me into the grass. I knew exactly what he was planning to do, so I just cried and closed my eyes. With my eyes closed, I heard a huge thump. When I opened them, I saw my twin sister standing over his unconscious body. She had hit him over the head with a broken fence post that was in our yard. She asked me if I was all right as she helped me up and out from underneath him. I embraced her with a hug and just sobbed into her shoulder and thanked her. She pulled her phone out of her back pocket and called the police. We stood over his body and waited for the cops to come. As soon as he came to, he was immediately arrested. He told the cops that he thought it was okay since I was 18. I told my sister that this was another reason why we needed to get the hell out of this town. A fresh start would do us both some good.
Salutations, my name is Reggie. I am a stockbroker with a wife, 3 kids, and a very nice home in an even nicer neighborhood. After dinner, I spend my evenings jogging around my neighborhood with my dog. It burns off calories and gives me some alone time. However, this evening something changed my life in the worst way possible. My wife, Sarah, had prepared an exquisite chicken parmesan for dinner tonight. It was very carb heavy, so I knew that I had to do a few extra laps around the neighborhood. After I helped her with the dishes, I tucked the kids in bed, followed by a bit of work in my study. I glanced at the clock and saw that it was 11 p.m. I laced up my running shoes, popped in my headphones, turned on some Frank Sinatra, grabbed my German Shepherd Finn, kissed Sarah goodnight, and began my nightly routine. I had gotten about 3 blocks away from my house and Finn started sniffing and barking to indicate that he needed to go. I know that I'm not supposed to, but I take him off his leash so that he can have some privacy. Yeah, I'm that kind of dog owner. I keep jogging because I know he'll catch up with me when he's finished like he always does. I go another block and notice that lights are on at the Carmichael's residence. I thought that was odd because they were not supposed to be back from Spain until next Tuesday. I took the liberty and walked up to the door and knocked. I was greeted by a man wearing a black hoodie and gloves as he pulled me into the house. He proceeded to throw me on the ground and started punching me in the face, abdomen, and the side of my head. He told me I picked the wrong time to come into the house. While he was beating me, I looked over and saw that he was robbing the house. He had trash bags full of their belongings, which included clothing, electronics, jewelry, you name it. He was picking them clean. Just as I was about to pass out, he pulled out a gun, cocked it, and aimed it at my forehead. He told me to make peace with God because I will be seeing him soon. The moment he said that, I could hear barking in the distance. It was Finn, and he was looking for me. I told Finn I was in the house, and within seconds, he pounced on the intruder and bit the hand he had the gun in. It discharged and shot a bullet into the floor just inches from my forehead, followed by dropping the gun on the floor. The intruder was able to shake off Finn, and he took off running. Finn chased him all the way to the van he had parked in the back alley. He was able to get away, but he was wounded pretty badly. Finn came back to check on me. I told him I was all right as I called for an ambulance. I was in pain, but I was more happy to be alive than anything. Finn saved my life tonight. I patted him on the head and told him what a good boy he was. We don't deserve dogs.
My boyfriend Todd and I are celebrating our 1-year anniversary of being together. His idea was to go camping on the trail where we met a year ago. I thought it was a great idea to give us time together, as well as reminisce about how far we've come in just 1 year. Both of our families happened to be camping on the same grounds. We were neighbors for a weekend. I guess we took the love thy neighbor thing a little too literally. It all happened so fast, but we got to know each other very well. We had to do long distance for the first 6 months, but he quickly moved out to my hometown after that. I live in Albuquerque, so he applied to the University of New Mexico just to be closer to me. He was accepted, and we got a 2-bedroom apartment together. It's been a wonderful 6 months. However, we both were about to experience the worst night of our lives in the very place where our happiness together began. The campgrounds were about 45 minutes away from our apartment. It was just an overnight trip, so we only packed the essentials: bottled water, a first aid kit, sleeping bags, equipment to make coffee, and some trail mix. We drove our Subaru out back to the campground a couple of hours before twilight. After we set up the tent, we decided to stay and cook dinner over our campfire. Dinner consisted of steak kebabs and s'mores for dessert. It was the first meal we ever ate together. After dinner, we sat and talked for a few hours, just really embracing the moment together. It was around midnight, and we finally decided to go hiking. The hike started off normal, but it did not stay that way. We got to the midpoint just off of the path. Todd noticed a tent in an area where we weren't allowed to camp. I told him to leave it alone and continue our hike. He let his curiosity get the better of him as he approached the tent. He opened it with caution, and there was nobody in there, but there were a few interesting materials. There was a hatchet covered in blood, some black trash bags, and duct tape. Todd was instantly creeped out and started running back towards me. When he did, he fell into a manhole that was cloaked with branches and leaves. It had to have been at least 7 feet deep. I could hear him screaming in agony as he told me that he had broken his ankle when he touched the ground. I told him not to move, and I was going to call for help. Of course, I had no service in the mountains. I was talking to him and trying to keep him alert. He told me that it was dark down in the hole and he couldn't see anything, except the moon shining above his head. He reached for his phone to turn the flashlight on, but his phone was destroyed on impact. I offered him mine, but he said he wanted me to hold on to it in case something were to happen to him. I told him not to think like that and help should be on the way. He informed me that it was 1 o'clock in the morning on a weekend, there was nobody coming to help, and we were on our own. He also was terrified because whoever's tent that was could be coming back very soon. He kept apologizing for looking in the tent instead of staying on the path. As soon as he said that, I could hear footsteps getting closer and closer to us. I turned around to shine my flashlight on the approaching person. It was another hiker who rushed over as soon as he heard screaming. He politely offered to help and told us that he had rope in his truck that he would be back with. He was a godsend, and I thanked him profusely as he left us. About 30 minutes went by, but he still hadn't returned with the rope. I began to worry once again. Just then, I heard footsteps. My worries were washed with relief as I shined my flashlight on him, but it wasn't the hiker. It was a scraggly-looking vagrant. He was covered in blood and he had rope that was as well. He smiled as he approached me and started laughing. He called Todd an idiot for falling into his trap and told him that it was going to be his grave soon. He walked up to me and hit me over the head. I blacked out. When I came to, I was tied up against a tree with a blood-soaked rope. I could smell gasoline in the air. While I was unconscious, he had tied me up and poured the hole that Todd was in with gasoline. Then he looked over and noticed that I was awake. He started laughing again as he walked over to me and ripped off one of the long sleeves of my shirt. He wrapped it around a tree branch and doused it in gasoline. He then lit it on fire and threw it down the hole. I could hear Todd screaming with fear, followed by pain as the flames touched his body. Eventually, all I heard was a crackling fire. I was crippled with fear and shock. I couldn't believe what was happening to him. He told me to stop crying and we would be reunited after he had some fun with me. I just let out a blood-curdling scream as he started walking towards me with the hatchet from his tent. He stopped right in front of me as he lifted the hatchet over his head, and he laughed in my face again. Just before he could swing it down, a shot rang out like thunder as a bullet had gone through his forehead. He staggered a bit and fell into the fiery hole he created for Todd. I looked to my left and saw the hiker with his rifle. He was drenched in blood and missing an ear, and his left eye was swollen shut. He told me that he was beaten as soon as he got to his truck to get the rope and was sliced with a Bowie knife. That's how his ear was cut off and strangled with the rope, which explained why it was bloody. The stranger offered to give me a ride back to camp where we both could have better service. I rode with him back to the tent and called 911. As I was looking for the first aid kit to clean some of my wounds, a little box fell out of one of the backpack's side pockets. I opened it and it was an engagement ring. Todd was planning on proposing to me on this trip. I dropped the box on the ground and fell to my knees. I curled up into a ball and sobbed as I could hear sirens getting closer to the camp.